All right, this is question 6. This is a constraint question, I guess, for lack of a better term. And we produce 3 items: a standard, premium, and a super duper. The constraint in our factory, though, is our copper winding machine. We only have 9,600 minutes a month to use on that. And it says our data for the 2 products appear below, but it looks like we have 3 products: standard, premium, and super duper. So we want to rank these things. Now, here's what you want to be careful of. It's easy to look at this and say, well, what's the contribution margin? I mean, that's the easiest thing to figure out, right? The contribution margin for this is $9. The contribution margin for this is $12. The contribution margin for this one is $15. We can also figure out the contribution margin ratio to see which one of these is the most profitable. And when we do that, we actually come up with pretty close numbers. The standard, the contribution margin ratio is 64%. The premium is 60, and the super duper is 60. And if you don't remember how to do that, it's contribution margin dollars divided by revenue dollars, or sales price. Okay, but that is not really what we're looking for here, because what we need to do is not figure out what is the contribution margin, but what we need to do is figure out what is the contribution margin per constraint, because all of these things have constraints. So I'm going to slide down here and get a little room, and here's how we would actually do this. So our standard, premium, and super duper, we have we've already calculated that. I don't need to rewrite that stuff. Let me just write the contribution margin. So we figured out the contribution margin is $9, $12, and $15. But now we need to figure out what is that per constraint, and what we would use are the minutes. So it takes a half a minute to make the standard, 6/10 of a minute to do the premium, or 1.2 to do the super duper. So I divide it by that constraint. I divide it by 0.5, divide it by 0.6, divide it by 1.2. And now I come up with basically the contribution margin per minute, if you want to think about it in those terms. So this is $18, this is $20, and this is $12.50 per minute. So now if I'm ranking these, well, I would say I want my emphasis to be on the premium, then the standard, and finally the super duper. Okay. Now, do we have capacity to meet demands for all of these products? Well, the answer here is no. So the demand for standard, this is the standard column, right? The demand is 12,000 units times a half a minute, or 6,000 minutes. For the premium, it's 8,000 units times 6/10 of a minute, which is 4,800 minutes. And finally, it's 1,000 units times 1.2 is 1,200 minutes. I add all those minutes up, and we get demand for 12,000 minutes. But remember, we only had capacity for 9,600 minutes. So no, we cannot meet all of the demand. If we could meet all of the demand, then really this is a wasted assignment, right? Because we'll just make everything that people want to buy, and that would give us our contribution margin. In this case, because we can't meet all of the demand, we have to decide how would we decide what products. Maybe I should read the question. If you don't have enough capacity, what additional factors would you take into consideration of which products you need to produce each month? Well, there's two things that we would want to consider here, right? We would want to consider, first of all, the contribution margin per minute. So that would put the focus on premium and standard. But there's some other factors we would have to consider. What about, do we have a relationship with an important relationship with certain customers, or some type of a store that really wants to highlight the super duper or something like that. These type of, again, that are, I don't know if I want to call them non-financial, but they're not exactly a calculation like this. We'd have to try to consider that. Maybe there's relationships with customers or things that may require us to manufacture a less profitable product. And finally, number four, how do we know which we want to produce? Well, we want to produce all the premiums because that's the highest contribution margin. So if I have 9,600 minutes available and I produce all 8,000 of those, that's going to use up 4,800 minutes, leaving 4,800 minutes. And so I want to produce as many as I can of the standard that will use up the 48 minutes. And I think I did the math. Since these use a half a minute each, I can multiply that by 2, and I get 96,000. So what would I produce? The question is, what would I produce? Well, I would produce 8,000 premium, and I would produce 9,600 standard, and that would chew up all 96,000 minutes. And I'd produce 0 super dupers.